Cool. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we'll probably get started here. Um, thanks again for joining for Tim's lecture on house sparrows. We will get started with Intro to eBird lecture. So I'm going to mute you all again. And then if you could turn your video cameras off, that'd be great. Then it will just focus on mine, so your face isn't popping up in the middle of other people's screens. All right, let me mute you all. All right. Oops. There we go. Can you all see that? Can you see me? I guess I can't see what you're saying, but cool. Well, thank you for coming again to this Introduction to eBird lecture. This is my first virtual lecture, so I'm very excited to talk with you and share with you about this incredible resource. This is going to be the first of a series of videos on eBird and how to use it. This very first one is geared more towards the someone who's never really heard of eBird, or who has been birding for a really long time and has never used eBird and might want to get into it. For those that know a lot about eBird, this is probably this is a very beginner in describing what eBird is and how to submit your first checklist. So I won't be offended at all if you want to leave for any reason. So no worries about that. Again, my name is Ethan Bott, and I work at the Urban Ecology Center, and I'm really excited to share this with you. Why can't I go to my next slide? There we go. This is my outline for the lecture today, for the eBird lecture. I'll start with the history of birds in relation to community science. I'll talk about what is eBird. Then I'll go into why you should start using eBird. And I'll get into some common misconceptions about eBird and why people don't get started or have never, who don't want to use eBird. And then at the very end, I'll run you through how to submit your first checklist using submitting it on your phone and online. And then, of course, there'll be questions and answers at the end. Again, if there are any questions at any time, please use the chat function. And if you hover in the bottom of your screen, you'll see the chat icon come up. And then make sure it's set to everyone. And then Tim will be moderating the session while I give the lecture. And then he will kindly interrupt me and ask the question that you may have. So please use the chat function for any questions. Before we start talking about eBird and what it even is, I want to first talk about one of the largest or one of the first community science projects using relating to birds, and this was the Christmas bird count. This is a yearly count that started around Christmas in 1900, and we just completed our 120th Christmas bird count this past winter. And it started out with 27 birders in 1900, and now it's well over 100,000 birders that participate in this yearly count for during a 1 month span. And this is one of the first community science projects that was counting birds. There was really nothing of that going on. There wasn't much data collection of biodiversity species and stuff like that. So this is really incredible how long ago it started and that it's been going every year. And there's some really cool publications that have come out of this from the data from the Christmas bird count. Another big one is called the Breeding Bird Survey. This is a North American project mainly for highly skilled birders. who are excellent birders in terms of sound and sight. Basically, they're trying to canvass all throughout North America to understand where birds are breeding. And so you need to be a very excellent birder to do this, but they get excellent data from this, and it's a really cool project. Another project is called Nest Watch. It is a project where people where community scientists like you can sign up to watch different nests, ranging from the popular one is bluebirds, but you can do tree swallows, eastern phoebes, and some other birds that people monitor and submit data to this organization. Then there's Hawkwatch International, and this program focuses on hawks migrating south through North America in the fall. And there's some pretty specific places in North America where people congregate in spring and fall to count hawks migrating. Another one is the American Kestrel Project, looking at the American kestrels breed or use nest boxes to breed and mate in. And so it's similar to Nest Watch, but specifically for American kestrels. There's iNaturalist, which is one of the big, it's a huge platform, but it involves every single taxa, any living organism, whether it's a mushroom or a fungi, to a bird, to a mammal, to a fish. And you can submit your data to this, and then it'll help identify it, and then you contribute to this large data set. The Great Backyard Bird Count is another big event that counts birds for a specific time period throughout the year. Journey North is one that that is known to track monarch migration, but they also track hummingbirds and other species. And so you can submit your sightings to this site to help track the migration of various species. And then a local one for those from Wisconsin, there's a program called Snapshot Wisconsin that uses trail cameras you can submit the photos you capture from your trail camera to this statewide database, and usually it's for mammals like deer or coyotes or even wolves, but they also capture birds, and so there's a platform for that. And as I go on, the first few slides are pretty text heavy, so I apologize for that. There's a lot of exciting information I want to share with you. So it'll be text heavy in the beginning, but then we'll get to the real nitty gritty and the cool stuff later. All right, so eBird is different from all the programs I talked about earlier for several reasons. The first one is that it is a worldwide monitoring program, and this online tool to submit your bird checklist to. Anybody from around the world can submit their checklist to this online program. It focuses on all species of birds. Literally, they have not all the species documented or recorded, but the goal is to have a database for all the birds in the entire world. Some of the programs before, like Hawkwatch, were focusing on hawks. The American Kestrel was on American kestrels. And iNaturalist focuses on every single type of living organism. But eBird is specifically just for birds, for people around the world to participate in. This is year-round. Some of the previous ones, like the Christmas bird count, which is probably one of the first projects to start with birds, is only during a specific time during winter. But eBird, you're able to submit data any single day of the year from wherever you are in the world. It also has a massive user base um, because it's so popular and so user-friendly. And I'll get more into the statistics and some pretty amazing things about eBird that talk about how big it is, but it has one of the largest user bases for biodiversity assessment in the world. And then it has a really broad spatial scope. They have checklist data from over covering 84% of the land mass in the entire world. Mainly where they don't have checklist data is from deserts where there's very little bird activity or very little human activity in the deserts. So those are some of the ways that eBird is different and kind of has its niche in this community science world. And before I go on, I want to talk a little bit about community science for those that don't know. A lot of you may recognize the term community science, but I use the term community science because it's more encompassing of all people. And so I'm trying to work on normalizing the term community science rather than citizen science. All right, so who is eBird for? eBirder is for birders, people who like birds, who have been birding for a long time, and they want a place to put their checklists or to track their data. It's for educators. It's a great tool to work with kids to teach them first about birding and then about submitting your data and why it's important to submit data to help create decisions for the researchers and for the conservationists. A lot of land trusts and a lot of parks departments use the data from eBird to make decisions and maybe even get grants and help fund them when they have a database of the birds on their property. And most importantly, it's for everyone. That's the amazing thing about eBird is that wherever you are in the world, you can participate in submitting your data to this program. The next thing that eBird does that is really important is that it gathers your data. It is a web-based bird checklist on an online platform that will show you birds that you are likely to see based on your location in the world. That's so important to know what birds you should or should not expect to see. If I'm in South America, the birds I expect to see would be vastly different from the birds in North America. And so to have a checklist that there are over 10,000 birds in the world. And so to be able to narrow it down to a couple hundred, it's just like saves you so much time and effort of like knowing that like you're not going to be seeing these other 9,500 birds. So that's a really great thing about this. And then it's a tool for gathering observational data. So the birds in your backyard, you go on a bird walk, you go biking somewhere, and you can submit all those sightings to this online database. Next thing is that eBird does is that it archives your data and everybody's data. And this is really important because it creates a permanent storage of personal records. A lot of times you hear of people maybe they see a really cool bird and they write it down on a piece of paper, or they had a bird list back from when they were younger, and then 50 years later, they're trying to remember of these past sightings that they've seen, and that piece of paper is gone, they don't remember. And so eBird creates puts all your data into the cloud, and it's stored in various places to ensure its safety. And so 50 years from now, if I see a rare bird, I can go back and know the exact time and day within seconds. I can find that information. This is one of the amazing things about eBird is that it's all online, and I'm all about the technology side of ecology, and this is eBird is really awesome. And then it helps understand bird distribution and abundance. Because all this data is coming in when I submit my checklist, other people are submitting it all around the world. And from that, you're able to map out their ranges, and the ranges of birds have actually changed because of the data coming from eBird of these birds. And we're understanding birds in a different way because so many people are submitting data to eBird. When you submit your checklist, it includes a spatial component of where you are in the world. So that's super important to help map out the distribution of birds and such. The next thing that eBird does is that it disseminates the data and the research that you collected. It joins worldwide data sets, and it joins this network called the Avian Knowledge Network, which is this super high, it's this program that's super sophisticated, and they model data based on temporal climate data, and they include data from eBird to really help create these specific bird distribution and abundance records. So to know that your data is going somewhere to contribute to these things, in my opinion, is a great reason why to get started into eBird, and why you may even to get into birding now at this time and age when you have the time to look in your backyard and stuff like that. And then it becomes a public tool for data visualization as well, for your own personal and individual gain. They have a lot of tools on there where you can visualize the timing of birds as they migrate. Right now we're approaching spring migration. For some birds, they're definitely underway, and they're going to be arriving in the Midwest now and in the next couple of weeks. But like, what if there's a bird that you really want to know, like, do cardinals migrate? Do robins migrate? What's this yellow bird, and when will it arrive? I don't know. You can use eBird, and you can figure that out using their tools on eBird. I will get to that in later lectures, but it's just fascinating tools that will expand your learning in such a unique way. So that's what eBird can do. All right, I'm going to get into a couple of examples of why eBird is so powerful to prove why you should get started with eBird. I'm going to talk about the tricolored blackbird, which is a blackbird found in California. Here's a picture of it. I got to show pictures of birds in this lecture, right? By the way, in the lower left-hand corner of your screen is a killdeer. It's on every single slide. I thought it was the cutest thing ever, so I had to include it. This is a tricolored blackbird that is found pretty much mainly in California. I don't know if you can see my cursor as I circle California in the top right-hand corner. And their population used to be in the 3 to 4 million range. It's not a huge population like for barn swallows or something, or for the house sparrows. But they used to be in the 3 to 4 million range, and then the population started collapsing towards around 200 or 300,000 species. And the reason being is that tricolored blackbirds flock in massive groups. They can create flocks of even 100,000, 200,000 birds. And they travel in these groups for the breeding season, and they use the farm fields of California to raise their young, and then it provides a food source for them. Here's a picture of a large group of tricolored blackbirds and them in the farm field. However, when farmers would harvest their crops, um, they would see massive declines in the tricolored blackbird population because there was like 90% abandonment of their nests after they harvested the crops, and then there was no food. Mainly it was for the abandonment, that the disturbance it caused when they harvested their crops, where they were raising their young. And so because they flock in such big groups, and if they go to one farm field, you have 100, 200,000 blackbirds in one farm field, and they harvest their crops, you've destroyed like 50% of the entire blackbird population, of the tricolored blackbird population. So this is where eBirders came in, and it's hard for scientists for professional scientists to track this. These large groups where there are only like 3 large groups of the tricolored blackbird, and to track where they are, they don't have the time and resources to do that. And so this is where eBirders came in, and they were able to just go out every day and track where the tricolored blackbirds were, and informed the government, the Audubon Society, and a couple organizations that were involved with this. And they created a partnership with the farmers, so they wouldn't, they would wait around 6 to 7 weeks to harvest their crops, to give time for the fledglings to fledge and to be able to fly away, so that they wouldn't die. So this is really an incredible example of the power of eBird, that would never be, the tricolored blackbird may be doing much worse if it weren't for people submitting their data from eBird and working to conserve a species. The next example I want to talk about is the wood thrush. This is known as one of the most beautiful birds, one of the birds that has the most beautiful songs in North America. Here it is singing. But another example of the power of eBird is that in the Maya forest, which is it's in Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize. And prior to eBird, researchers didn't know where wood thrushes were overwintering. So you'll see the wood thrushes will breed in North America, in Canada, and then spend almost all of their winter in the Maya forest. And due to eBird, researchers then discovered that the wood thrush, and there were a couple other species like the Kentucky warbler, were using the Maya forest exclusively because it's the largest, not rainforest. It's a very important place for the birds, and so they were able to refocus their conservation efforts on the Maya forest to help protect this species. I'm going to play the song for you because it's so beautiful. I hope you're going to be able to hear it. I'm going to turn my volume up.
Ellen. Zero 7 3 3 3.
I just had to share that with you because I thought it's such a beautiful song. Okay, moving on. To break it down from why you should eBird. This is a more organized 5 reasons why you should start using eBird. Again, it organizes and tracks your list while providing scientific data. The fact that it organizes your list in the chronological order, you can search it. You can search in eBird by location, by bird. There's so many ways you can organize your own personal data that it makes it so easy, and so it makes a very valuable reason why you should submit it to eBird. And then it provides scientific data to help conservation decisions, decisions for land trusts or for parks and stuff like that. It tells you, eBird tells you what birds are being observed and where they are. And so you can look at other people's submissions and see where they're, what they're seeing, where they're seeing it, and you can use that to your advantage. It holds birders accountable. It's really good. It's important. Oh, let me think about this. It holds birders accountable because sometimes we do see things that may not be correct. And so eBird has a variety of algorithms and things to pull out false and erroneous data if you submit something that's wrong. We all see things that may not be true, and that's totally fine. That shouldn't hold you back from submitting data because you think you might be wrong. You should still totally do it. eBird has a variety of things that will pull out that erroneous data. So that's a great thing to know that if you're nervous about submitting your data, that hopefully it will be pulled out. It makes birding accessible, social, and fun. It makes it accessible because everybody can participate around the world. It's in 30 languages, and they're working on translating it to many more. It's social and fun because you can share checklists, you can see what other people are doing, and then it makes you a better birder because for me, I go on eBird like every day and I look what's being seen around me. I know when birds are arriving and when they're leaving, what I can expect and not to. I really realize I need to hurry up because I still have to show you how to submit a checklist. So here are some quick stats on eBird. There are over 500,000 eBirders accounts in the world. There are 43 million checklists have been submitted. That's a ton. They have over 737 million bird observations have been reported through eBird. They've recorded 10,500 species on eBird, and there have been hundreds of peer-reviewed publications on the eBird data. This is a really important part because to know that the data you are collecting is going to peer-reviewed publications, that if they didn't have all these people collecting data, there would be nothing for them to work off of. There would be no data for them to work off of. Again, there are checklists from all the countries and territories that covers 84% of the land surface. I thought that was interesting. And then you can submit your photos, audio, and videos. They have over 18 million submissions of that. And there's a spoon-billed sandpiper here, which was at one point was the most liked picture within eBird. It's a super cool sandpiper from, it's a rare bird. There are only about 300 of them left in the wild in the northeast China. And it's a super cool bird. There's like some cool recordings. I was gonna play a recording, but I'll pass on this. So you can submit all these things and actually helps you with learning in a way because you get to see these different subspecies of birds in different areas of the world rather than just seeing one generic bird for all the birds in the world. You can see the photos by location. Here's some stats just for 2019. There were 10.5 million checklists submitted in 2019. 140 million sightings in 2019. In the month of May alone, there were 20 million sightings in 2019. They had over 9,000 species reported in 2019, and over 4.5 million photos and sounds were submitted in 2019. The growth of eBird is incredible. I'll show you a picture later, but if you look at some of the data of the number of submissions and sightings, it's gone from maybe like 100,000 a year, and now we're at like 20 million sightings in May alone, which is just incredible. So the growth of eBird, yeah, is just incredible. Yeah, here we go. So here's the growth of eBird through 2019. You can see the blue is the number of observations, the number of birds seen, and then the checklists are the number of checklists. And what started as an experiment in eBird has now just, I don't think any of them realized how big it would be, but it's just exploded to, let's see, we have unsighted it's in the millions. So we have 20 million checklists at the peak, and that's probably in observation, that's probably in May. So this is pretty cool to see the growth of eBird. All right, I'm going to talk about some of the common misconceptions about eBird, about why people hesitate to get started. The first one is that I've been birding for many years and it would take too long to catch up. People have been birding and recording their data on pieces of paper in some different way for a long time, and it would take a long time to catch up. That's fine. You don't have to submit your data from the past. That would take a long time, so just start using it now. There's no better time to get started now, and if you have time, you can slowly submit your checklist from the past. Being on a piece of paper is valuable to you, but do you want to make it valuable for the entire your community and for the broader community as well? I don't have time to submit checklists to eBird. Some people think that, but it goes probably, it's just as fast as writing it down on a piece of paper. So if you see 20 or 30 species, you can do it just as quick on a piece of paper or just as quick on eBird than you can on a piece of paper. Some people use other programs to keep their bird list. eBird has a lot of tools to integrate that data from other programs into eBird. And then some people think that eBird doesn't want their data or the birds from my backyard. That's the farthest thing from the truth. Every single bird counts. All the data counts that you're collecting that goes to eBird. Here's a map of the European starlings in Milwaukee. For those that don't know, a European starling is an invasive species. And people are like, oh, you don't want invasive species data in eBird. But in fact, it really helps to know where every single bird is. It's that's super valuable. Here's a map of Wisconsin that shows the number of checklists submitted by county and then the number of birds observed by county as well. And you'll see that based on people bird close to where they live. So you'll see in Milwaukee County here, there have been 8,952 checklists submitted, and we have 265 species on the left-hand side. Is Milwaukee the most diverse place in the state? Maybe, maybe not. But you'll see that where you have more checklists, here is Madison and Dane County, you're going to have a higher species, total species count. And then in some of the more rural counties, we have fewer species and fewer checklists. So I encourage you to get out to go birding and maybe try out some new places. All right, so what if you're new to birding and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do? My first recommendation would be to bird with a friend, to bird with someone that knows how to do it. But in this time, that's not really advisable and probably safe. And so my best resource for you is to download the Merlin Bird ID app. It's a free app that you can either take a picture of a bird and it uses AI, and you tell it where you are, what time you saw it, and time of year that you saw it. And it does a really incredible job depending on the photo that you took to ID it. Alternatively, if you just see a bird in your backyard, you can go through a series of 5 questions telling what size, what colors you saw, what time, where it was it in the water or not, and it does a really good job of identifying. So that'd be my best recommendation to get started on learning bird ID. It's really incredible resource. Another one is called Song Sleuth, which is a free app. This allows you to, you can actually record a bird call. It's kind of like that app Shazam. I feel like I haven't used Shazam in like 5 years, but you could record a song on the radio on the phone and then identify it. And so in a similar way, if you download Song Sleuth, it'll help and record that song. It'll help record it, or it'll help identify it. All right, so there are 2 ways that you can submit your bird data. You can do it on eBird online, or you can do it on eBird mobile. I'm going to walk you through how to submit a checklist on eBird mobile, and if I have time, I'm going to show you how to do it online as well. So at this point, I'd recommend that you download eBird right now if you want to walk through with me as we do it together to submit your very first checklist. I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to switch it to our iPad. So if you go ahead and download eBird, it's free. I'm going to share my screen with you, or my iPad with you. Let's see if this works. Yay. Cool. All right, so now you can see my iPad right now, where I'm pretending I'm going to submit a checklist from eBird mobile. So I'm going to go and click on eBird. And I deleted all the data, so this is what you should be seeing. There we go. There's going to be a little bit of a lag between what I click and what you see. So I'll try to slow down as much as I can. You can either skip here in the top right, or you can click continue. It's nothing too valuable here, and then get started in the bottom. Right now, I already have an account created, but if you don't have an account, you should see a screen where you can create an account. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can just watch me log in. Not now. All right, so you will see a page for preferences here. You can pick common, scientific, or both. As Tim mentioned in his lecture earlier, he recommends that you learn the scientific names. I'm pretty bad at scientific names, so I have it set as common, but a good option might be both to get the best of both worlds. I'll keep it common for now. You can change your language here to whatever language you would like. And then there's an option here that says show subspecies for data entry. You can leave it unchecked. However, as you get more and more advanced in your birding, some people, there are subspecies of, say, the yellow-rumped warbler. The myrtle warbler, the subspecies of the yellow-rumped, is found here in the Midwest, but I believe it's the Audubon's subspecies of the yellow-rumped is found up near California and in the Rockies. So once you get better, you can give better data to eBird, but you're fine with saying yellow-rumped warbler. And then the next option here is that you can show distance in miles or kilometers, whatever you would like. And I'm now going to click continue. Here it says get a bird pack. This is pretty important. So it knows, it gives you the best suggestion for birds that you're going to be seeing. So I can click on view suggested packs based on my location, or I could browse all packs, and I could theoretically add a bird pack from Australia, Africa, or Asia. So I'm going to do view suggested packs. It will ask you, well, I guess you can't see that, but it'll ask you, allow eBird to access your location. I say probably would be good to say allow while using app. because then it can track your bird route, your bird walk as you're actually birding. And then here you'll see, I'm in Minnesota actually right now. And so it's suggesting the Minnesota bird pack for me. But on the bottom, you can see I can scroll around for other places. And so for some of you who are in Wisconsin, you might want to get the Wisconsin pack. And then you can click get pack. It goes pretty quickly depending on your Wi-Fi connection or if you're going off of data. We'll just bear with here and try to get through this download. You can also, there are other packs you can add, like the Midwest pack and stuff like that if there are other, if you're thinking you're gonna be doing birding in a broader area. All right, so here you see your screen, or you see my screen, and hopefully on your phone. Again, I'm using iOS on iPad right now. It might look a little different for an Android. I haven't used an Android too much, so I'm using iOS. So here's, you have the date, the start time, record, track, and start checklist. Say you are about to go out and bird walk right now. You could literally just click, tap, start checklist, and then just go walk outside. And it'll record you as you bird. It'll record your route as you walk. However, let's say you're submitting a checklist from this morning. I would first turn off the record track in the kind of in the bottom part. Do you see that? Because I'm submitting something from the past and I don't want it to, I'm not birding in the moment, and I'll turn that off. Say I did it this morning, I'll change the start time, say I went out at 8 a.m. on April 17th of 2020, and then I will click Start Checklist. So this is what I said in the very beginning of the presentation, is that it creates a checklist of birds that you are likely to see. You have to do no work other than tell you where you are, and it'll give you its best guess of what you should be seeing. That's like such an underrated benefit of eBird. So I have April 17th at 8 a.m. in the middle top left, and then if I click on the little dot, oops, I should show you where. If you click on the little pinpoint green location symbol that says auto selected, maybe I'd like to give it a more specific location about where I was. Let's say I was at the T.S. Roberts Bird Sanctuary birding. I will select that. You also have recent, nearby, and a map. So if you could just zoom out of where you in the map view, and you'll see all these hot spots of where most people are birding, and you'll see the lakes have one. Let me go to Milwaukee, where I know a lot of you are. Let's see if I can get there without crashing it. There we go. Let's see if we can load that up. All right, hotspots, load points. Okay, so here's Riverside Park. Say you went on a bird walk at Riverside Park. You'll see the hotspot orange little fire symbol show up, and you can click on that. So if you've been to Riverside Park recently, you could go to the recent tab in the top left. Or you could do the nearby to see ones that are nearby you, but we'll do the map one for this instance. You'll click on that checklist, or on that location, and then you'll click in the bottom right, use this location. All right, so it actually changed because I went from Minnesota to Wisconsin, it actually changed the likely species I would be seeing. That's how accurate it is. It's congregating the data from all the checklists in that local area to give you what's most likely that you're going to be seeing. You'll see under, you're probably wondering what these little colors mean next to each bird. The orange half circle It means that it's an uncommon bird. It has been reported in the area, but it would be uncommon to see. And the red dot would be a rare bird that has been unreported so far in that local area as of right now. Okay, say you went to Riverside Park or you were in your backyard and you saw maybe some Canada goose. You saw Canada goose flying overhead. You'll see it right here in the top third of the checklist. And you can click the plus button to add, say, one, you saw one. It's important to try to count the number of birds that you saw. You don't have to, but it's better data if you have an accurate count of the number of birds you saw. So if you saw 2 flying over, that'd be better than just saying you saw geese flying overhead. You can also, if you know the bird you saw, you can go into the search bar in the very top and say, I saw 1 cardinal. You can type in card, K-C-A-R-D, and it'll automatically pull that up. And then you can say 1 cardinal. Another way you can do this, where you don't even have to click the plus button to add the number of species you saw. Let's say I saw a robin. Let's say I saw 3 robins. You can use in the number pad below, you can type in 3, and then space, and then I can type in rob in. And then just by tapping American Robin, I'm just going to tap the name. I'm not going to tap the plus button. It's going to automatically populate it with 3 robins, so I don't even have to tap the plus button 3 times. So that's a helpful feature. If you go back to the whole wide layout view, on the bottom left, there are 3 options. If you click the one with the check with 3, it just congregates your checklist into the 3 birds that you saw, that you've seen or have counted so far. If you, there's settings. If you click that plus button in the bottom left-hand corner, this is where you can add some comments. Maybe you want to add the weather, or maybe something unusual happened. Maybe you saw a hawk fly in and eat a bird, or you saw something unusual. You can add comments here. I'm not going to add any comments. And then, so that's an example of doing that. I want to show you if I see a really rare bird and I put it in there. If I see a snow goose here, and I say I saw it and say it probably wasn't, and I try to submit it, eBird will flag me and it'll say that that's that's a very unusual sighting, and I'm going to have to either provide photographic evidence or a lengthy comment of the description of that bird. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier about it holds birders accountable. And so, because they want the best data as possible. And so if you really did see a snow goose and you have a picture or you have a really good comment of like very specific things about the bird, then it'll be accepted. But otherwise, if you just submit it without doing anything, it'll probably be filtered out of the data. Another thing is if you say I accidentally clicked on snow goose and I want to get rid of it, how do you get rid of it? Oh, it's going up and up and up. You can click on snow goose, and then where it's highlighting the number 8, you can just go back and it goes to nothing. And then clicking done, it now disappears. A lot of people, when they accidentally put in 8, they'll put in a 0. I think that's fine, but I think the best thing is you should do is just go back and click there. Now let's go to, I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back to the cardinal. Say you saw 2 cardinals and you saw one of them carrying nesting material. A lot of cardinals are in the process of making their nests and breeding right now. You'll see in the middle, it says breeding code. If you go it's kind of hard to click. There we go. You really have to click that arrow to the far right, or if you click the eye, you're going to get this help thing, which you don't want. But if you go to the far right arrow, you'll see a list of breeding codes here. This is, you don't have to do this. If you see birds breeding or something like that, you can just say you saw the cardinals and nothing more. But if you want to help submit better data, you can see a list of breeding codes here. And I say I saw them carrying nesting material, which is right here in the middle. I'm putting it right there. And I would select that. Now it says carrying nesting material. And then I'll click done. All right. I'm going to go back to my little check at the bottom with the 3 to see the 3 species I've seen. And say those are the 3 I saw at Riverside Park. I'm going to click review. Okay, I have 3 minutes. I'm going to hurry up as quick as I can. So we have the date and time on the top. We have location at Riverside Park, Urban Ecology Center. And now it's going to ask you for 3 options of what observation type was it. We have the traveling, the stationary, and the incidental. If you're just looking from your backyard, you would select stationary. If you went on a bird walk specifically for birding, you would pick traveling. Or maybe it was an incidental, like you were walking to the park and you saw a cardinal fly right in front of you, or you saw a hawk fly by. Where birding was not your primary purpose, you would then select this option. I will say I was traveling at the Urban Ecology Center. Well, I see some people raising their hands. I'm just going to try to power through this, and then we can ask questions at the end. There's a place for you to add the number of observers if you were by yourself, or you could say 4 people were with you. How long did I go? Let's say I went for 45 minutes. If I started eBird at the very beginning with the tracking on, it would automatically calculate the number of miles I went. But if I'm submitting it after the walk, I could estimate I walked 1.4 miles. And then there's a very important thing here where it says, is this a complete checklist of the birds you were able to identify? You will only select yes if birding was your primary purpose and you identified to the best of your ability all the birds. Now, I know some of you are like, might say, I don't know, I'm not very good at birding, I'm not really sure. And that's fine, and that's where the resources like Merlin Bird, the Merlin Bird app and the Song Sleuth app will help you become a better birder, hopefully.
Sorry, that was me. I thought I was muted.
And however, if it was an incidental sighting, oops, I can't go back to change it to, if it was an incidental, it would automatically select no, because if you see like a bald eagle fly by and you submit it to eBird, and that's all you submit, that'd be kind of erroneous data to say that at that moment in time, there was only a bald eagle, because there were probably other birds present at that time. And so it would be no, it would not be a complete checklist. But if you just stand for 3 more minutes to capture all the birds in the area, then you would have a complete checklist. I saw a bald eagle fly by, and I saw 4 house sparrows, and that was it. Then you have a complete checklist. However, if you see a bald eagle and you see no other birds, then that's the complete checklist. So just a couple quick things I want to share before you do that. And then you can click submit. I guess I'll do this. I can delete this later. I'm gonna submit it, and at the very bottom, then you can see submit, trips, checklist, my eBird, and more. If you go to checklist, you can see the one I submitted, and then say I was working on the checklist, it'd be in the not submitted, and then the submitted would be right there. So that's a very, very brief lesson in submitting your first checklist. I was planning on doing it online as well and sharing sounds and photos and all this, but I ran out of time. So with that, I'm gonna stop sharing. and I did a lot of talking, not a lot of answering.
Thank you, Ethan. That was awesome. We have at least one question, but I just want to thank everybody again for coming to this inaugural morning chat. We'd like to do some more. Please give us your feedback, thoughts, questions. If there's any other additional topics you'd like us to cover, if there are any topics you guys would like to cover, if you want to host one of these. So thanks again, and now we'll just spend a few minutes if people have questions for Ethan. The first one is related to how do you change from scientific names to common names?
That should be in your preferences. Let me see. If you go to, okay, here we go. If you're in, let me share my screen quickly. If you're in the main place, if you go to the bottom right to more, and then you go to settings on account in the very bottom option, and then you should see account, swimbot, and then species name display. If you click on common name, you can then select scientific, both, or just common.
So any other questions, thoughts, comments on this, on birds, on anything in the world right now? It's on your mind?
There's a question from, is there a way to indicate how certain you are that you saw a particular bird? That's a good question. There's no way to be certain. We're all wrong, and we all can be wrong at times. So
I'll tell you what I often want to say to my phone is like, are you sure that this was a Bohemian waxwing? And I'm like, yes. Why? Because it looks like a Bohemian waxwing. So that's what you kind of want to say, is like, I know what a robin looks like. I know that this is a robin. But what they really want are photographs if you have them. And they're really only going to do this to birds that are pretty rare or in, but try to be specific if you don't have a photograph, particularly why you think this bird is a hermit thrush. I saw the rusty on the tail. Everything that you can think of to put into eBird. They may follow up with you on an individual basis if they're still unsure. It could be that they decided based on your feedback not to include that particular observation in the public database, but you can still have it on your own database. So you kind of, it gets into that weird dynamic of like, yeah, I know what I saw, but they want to know, well, tell me why you think it's that bird.
Well, if you have any questions, please let me know, or if you have any questions for Tim, feel free to email us. We'd be happy to answer them. And hopefully in the future, we'll have more presentations going over cool birds in your backyard and how to use eBird at a higher level as well.
And this is just the tip of the eBird iceberg. So like, there's a lot more cool things that Ethan can share with you guys too. So try it out, and we're available as you do this through email, give it a go.
If there aren't any other questions, I was going to share some links with you, what am I going to share? For those that still want to hang around, I'll share my screen quickly. I just want to show you some really cool photos of birds that you can see. Here, eBird has a way of submitting your photos, sounds, and everything. And so here you can see 17 million photos have been shared. This is right now the top rated photo of eBird of all time, this black and white warbler. They're just fantastic. And here this was a spoon-billed sandpiper that was at one point the most popular bird. So these are just incredible photos that you can just like get lost in. You can scroll here forever. Here's a quetzal, and oh, here's the Goldman's. There's a Goldman's yellow-rumped warbler. So there are a variety of yellow-rumped warblers out there, but you can find this in the explore section of eBird, and then search photos and sounds. So that's a little a teaser for next week on how you can really dive into eBird and see so much more within it. So.